Thank you everybody for joining for this last MemoQ 4.5 webinar. My name is István Lengyel and I'm sitting here with Gábor Ugrai, our Head of Development.
Hello everyone, this is Gábor. Welcome to the webinar.
So what we would like to do is show you MemoQ 4.5. But before we do that, we would like to highlight a couple of features that we have added to this new release. MemoQ 4.5 will officially come out on the 18th of October, so stay tuned for that. And we are starting the beta program next week. If you're interested, let us know. So what's the rationale behind releasing MemoQ 4.5? Well, you could have seen that quite a buzz evolved around MemoQ and Q after MemoQ 4.0, because what we were to translators with MemoQ 4.0, we became for project managers. And now we thought that it is time to offer some tangible benefits that our competitors are not offering. So MemoQ 4.5 is very much about differentiation from the competition, and how we differentiate is an immediate return on investment. So what are the breakthrough technologies behind this new release? Maybe Gábor would like to clear this all up.
This is basically two big group of capabilities. The first group is Live-Align, ActiveTM, and Library. The idea behind Live-Align is to move the alignment workface into the translation workface. Whereas previously, the normal way to align bodies of existing translations was to spend special time and effort up front to get the alignment right, fix the minor mistakes that the alignment algorithm still left in there. Now, we offer a different way to do alignment, which is basically just pour source and translated text into a LiveDocs corpus. MemoQ will do a rough initial automatic alignment, and as you start translating, you will start receiving hits from this aligned pair of documents or aligned pair of documents. If the alignment is okay at that part, very fine. If you happen to run into a part of the document where alignment was not so perfect, you just fix it on the spot. The point is, you don't spend time and effort fixing up things in the alignment that will never actually yield you leverage. ActiveTM is basically a collection of bilingual documents. This is also part of a LiveDocs corpus, which could be previous translations of you done in MemoQ, imported as bilingual files or moved over from previous projects. It could be any kind of bilingual file format imported into MemoQ, be it XLIF, TTX, or a bilingual RTF file. MemoQ stores a collection of such documents and automatically in the background builds a fuzzy index behind that. So instead of keeping track of a translation memory, you can now completely go and not use the translation memory at all, but instead rely on this indexed collection of bilingual documents to get fuzzy and exact matches. And finally, Library is a collection of monolingual documents which are also indexed just like ActiveTM, just like bilingual documents in the ActiveTM. And the use of this is that if you have some reference material at hand for a particular kind of job or project, but that reference material happens to be monolingual, you can still leverage that in MemoQ. Previously, you would need an external tool for that, such as DT Search or many other indexing applications. Now MemoQ offers the same functionality within the single environment. So this was the first big group of features. The second large capability that we have added in 4.5 is a new working day of online projects, which we call desktop documents. So some of you are probably already familiar with online projects in MemoQ 4.0 and 4.2. This allows you to set up a project centrally on a server, eliminate the need to distribute a package to translators because everything happens online. Plus, it gives project managers the opportunity to track project progress online and in real time. Now, online projects with desktop documents eliminate some of the difficulties with the previous way of working. You can now just check out the project and then work offline, and only every once in a while, when you have a stable internet connection, you can synchronize your documents and resources with those on the server. So this gives the benefit of working offline, while project managers still retain the ability to check and track project progress through the server project manager. Plus, with this feature, we also eliminated a couple of difficulties that we had with online documents, such as joining or splitting segments or creating views. These are the nifty details that those of you who already use MemoQ will appreciate a lot, we hope.
There are also a couple of things where MemoQ is trying to level up with the competition. This is something that you may have seen that we had the same structure of a presentation for MemoQ 4.0, and we decided to use this for 4.5. Basically, now MemoQ can also include mobile licensing in projects, which means that if you as a project manager set up an online project for one of your translators or more of them, then the translators can automatically be assigned also the mobile licenses, and they don't need to check out the licenses separately. This cuts training time. Then we have improved an awful lot on the speed of the TM. You will be very delighted to see that in many cases basically the average speed up of the TM is 8 times. We have also improved a lot on the alignment, but I will revert to this later. And we have enabled loops in the workflows, which means that if a reviewer finds that a translator has not done the job properly and wants to return the job to the translator, he can now do it. But there are all sorts of things in the workflows that you will see in the live demo that got better. So basically, the communication between the different players in the workflow has improved a lot. And this makes MemoQ level up with the best known TMS systems in the market. Easy Attach is a technology that also is part of the LiveDocs corpus technology, and it allows you to attach any sort of a document, a binary file, an image, or anything that comes handy as a reference document. So let me just say a few words about the translation memory, or Gabor wants to do that.
Okay, I'm taking over here for this slide. As István had mentioned before, part of the improvements that we have implemented in the translation memory is speed. Now the translation memory is up to 8 times faster on the data that we have tested, and MemoQ's engine supports much larger translation memories. So while previously we were aiming for translation memories of a few 100,000 entries, now we are aiming for translation memories up to 2 million entries or more. The translation memory engine now also handles formatting and numbers better, so hopefully even if it's a fuzzy match, you will need to work less on the results. Plus we have made MemoQ's translation memories reversible. So if you have an English to German TM, then you can add that as a reference TM to a German to English project and receive results. Previously for this you would need to go through an export and import route. Now TMs are reversible. We have improved the log management in the server. This is specifically to do with the translation memory again. If somebody is doing a long operation such as pre-translation or statistics on a large document, this will no longer prevent other users to add commit individual entries into the translation memory, or alternatively, if there is an import in progress, that will not prevent other users to receive matches from the TM in the meantime. And in conjunction with the speed improvements, such processes will not slow down the lookup speed of the translation memory for other users.
I can see on the attendee list that there are quite a few people who have been with us for 2-3 years, and those of you who were with MemoQ for a long time probably know that the alignment has not changed since MemoQ 1.0. In MemoQ 4.2, we included the editing facilities in the alignment. But now with MemoQ 4.5, we have concentrated on the alignment. Probably some of you know that we like to concentrate on areas rather than talk about features. So how did we improve alignment? Well, Live Align is a technology that is probably something that you will consider a big improvement in alignment. because it shifts the alignment from before the project into the project. So for you translators, it's going to be a bliss because you will not have to align anything that you will not reuse. And for you project managers, it will also be a bliss because your translators can start working without aligning. Live align also works on the server. Then we implemented the multi-file alignment, which enables you to import several files or a directory structure in one go and then match the names together. Of course, there is an alignment process for this as well built into the tool. And then you can simultaneously import several file pairs at the same time. Then there is ID-based alignment. Many of you are probably working with software localization, and in cases like XML, Excel, or Java properties, resource files, there are IDs that tell you where a string comes from. And in such cases, the alignment is now taking the ID into account, and basically you can be sure that if you have two files and the ID is identical, then the two are going to match up in the alignment. And even if the order is different of these strings, they will appear next to each other. This is really a great improvement for those of you who are migrating, let's say, from a, in the case of software localization, from an environment where you did the translations manually or in an editor into a translation memory supported alignment translation. And there is learning alignment. What do I mean by this? The new aligner in MemoQ takes into account more so-called anchors than the one before. For example, if you add words into the terminology, into the term bases, it will know that these words belong together, and this improves the alignment. Or if you have bold, italics, and underline, or tags in the alignment, they will also improve the quality of the alignment. So with adding words or word pairs into the term base, your aligner is going to learn and improve. So let's now say a few words about our value proposition to freelancers and then language service providers and enterprises. Probably you know that our policy is to make sure that with every release we give something to all these segments. But to freelancers, I think the biggest improvement is going to be stopping the alignment. Probably many of you work with companies that do not give you translation memories, but have some reference materials. You will simply not need to do anything before the translation. You are going to get more value out of your term bases by being able to improve the alignment through the use of term bases. And you are also going to be able to reverse your TMs. This is something that we've seen with many freelancers who work with companies that translate a thing into one language and then go back to the original language for commenting and things like that. In those cases, this can really be a big thing. And MemoQ now, through the library technology, which is also part of the LiveDocs corpora, it can also use monolingual resources in source and target as well. So basically you can just throw in a number of monolingual websites, PDFs, whatever, or a law, for example, when you are translating legal text. And you can find whether a word occurs in this. If it's a source, you get fuzzy matches, plus you get concordance matches. If it's on the target, you can look up the expressions using the concordance.
Finally, here's our value proposition for enterprises and LSPs. One of the reasons we added the LiveDocs corpora into MemoQ was to simplify the management of earlier translations. And this, among other things, means the management of translation memories. Basically, we like to say, you want to simplify the management of translation memories, now throw them away. What a corpus is, what a LiveDocs corpus is a collection of past translated documents. It provides means to annotate these documents with keywords or tags, if you like it like that. These documents can be of any language combination, so LiveDocs corpus is not restricted to any number of languages. It's language that is defined by the languages of all the documents in there. So imagine the situation where you realize that by mistake somebody, so to say, cleaned up a wrong document into your translation memory several months back. Hunting down those entries in a TM is a big task. With a LiveDocs corpus, you just look for the particular document that somebody may have happened to add by mistake, and you remove it. This capability also allows you to manage binary reference docs. Binary, we mean document formats where MemoQ does not extract text from. This could be screenshots for a localization project, images, scanned PDF files where you cannot use OCR to get the content out, anything. If you add it to a corpus, MemoQ allows you to open that in its respective viewer. We also have a feature that is also part of other parts of MemoQ, that is synchronization. We have had this for translation memories and term bases for a long number of versions, I think 2.0. This allows you to have a server-based translation memory or term-based and check out a local copy. Work against that local copy without a live connection to the server, and every once in a while synchronize the contents of your resources with the master copy in the server. Now we have extended this to documents. So you can set up an online project, have a server-side copy of those documents, check out the project, and then work offline. Only synchronize every once in a while when your connection allows that.
And there's also the reduction of training time for freelancers. So far you had to train people in translating and also in claiming mobile licenses if you work with a server. And now this mobile license training time can be eliminated. The other thing is with enterprises, we can guarantee an immediate deployment because you just throw your existing resources into a LiveDocs corpus right now, and you don't have to do anything. MemoQ does everything in the background, and you start getting a return on investment immediately. So let me just say a few words about the upgrade path, because this is something that's interesting for many people. It's the regular one. We are not increasing the price or anything with MemoQ. It's 20% after a year, which includes upgrades and support. So those of you who bought MemoQ before the 1st of September 2008, because this was the time until which we allowed 3 years of free upgrades instead of 1, are going to be eligible for this. So this lasts until 2011 September. Or those who bought the program after the 1st of October 2009 will also be entitled to a free upgrade. So and of course if you have a valid support and upgrade contract with us, then you are also entitled to upgrading. And what we did not say so far about MemoQ 4.5, because it wasn't ready so far, is the integration with QTerm, our corporate web-based terminology management software. QTerm enables you to set up your own record structure. It enables you to give access to those people who only use a browser and not MemoQ, but still it integrates perfectly with a MemoQ installation. QTerm is a layer on top of the MemoQ server, so you can only run it if you have a MemoQ server, and it will come as a separate product. But let's not go into this because we plan to host a few webinars on QTerm in October and November. So let's just go into a live demonstration. And I give the floor to Gabor now for the demonstration.
I can see that already there are some questions coming in. I think some of this will in fact become clear in the live demonstration, Bert. And also, in the meantime, if you have any questions, then feel free to type those in the questions box. We will have a separate part at the end of the webinar when we will go through all of the questions and answer those. This is actually usually quite a significant part. But we may also stop for a moment in the meantime. But right now, we remember that before we actually jump into the demonstration, we want to show you one or two poll questions. So please help us and answer this question so we can tailor the webinar to our audience. In the meantime, while you are voting, I'm firing up MemoQ on my end, so we will not need to waste time with that. So I can see that the overwhelming majority of you have already voted. Thank you very much for that. We are also going to share the results. So this is the result of the poll. We can see that about 1/3 of the audience is not using MemoQ, and most of the people here are MemoQ users. That's very nice to know. Okay, so now it's really time for a live demonstration. I did come prepared with a project that I set up in advance. There's going to be two major parts of this hands-on demo. The first part I intend to use to show you the functionality of live docs and the reversible functionality of the translation memory. In the second part, I will go into online projects with desktop documents. So this is a project that I set up in advance. You can see that there's a document already imported in there. And if you look at the category on the left, their alignment used to be, that spot is now taken by live docs. Alignment has now become part of live docs. This screen here is a split screen. Just as with translation memories, let me just switch there for a really short time. With other resources like translation memories, you just get a single list. And there you can see all of the resources that are either on your computer or on a server. With live docs, the list at the top corresponds to that. You can also toggle a filter if you need more space or if you want to browse through a lot of corpora. And the part at the bottom gives you an insight into the contents of the corpus, the live docs corpus that is selected at the top. Now, one thing that I would like to highlight already at this point is that in MemoQ, a live docs corpus is yet another resource, yet another heavy resource. So the other two heavy resources that we have would be translation memories and term bases. And it's a resource because it can be exported, it can be reused across different projects, and very importantly, it can be uploaded to a server and shared online in real time with other users. The same is true for corpora. So you are not limited to either a single local computer or a single local project. So you can reuse these across multiple projects and also share them online. So what is inside a corpus? In this particular corpus, we have 3 documents. You can also see this by the highlighting of the rows and the little icons on the left. The first document here is a monolingual document. I can double click to open it. Unfortunately, I imported this without a preview, but what you can see here is that it looks just like a translation document, only that there's only a single column because there's no translation. This is a monolingual document, plus you also get the preview if you do import the document like that. If you take a peek into the second one, that happens to be an alignment document. So this is where the alignment interface is now accessible. This is actually a fairly good alignment, but on purpose, I made a little mistake here. Even by the length of the string, you can probably see that there's a misalignment just towards the top of the screen, and highlight is translated as something completely different. We'll come back to that in a second. So what you see here is just 2 pairs of files that are imported. I changed one link manually, and then I left this interface. Just to give you an idea of the improvements of the aligner, I'm going to bring up the dialog where you can import an alignment pair. And if you take a look at the bottom, then besides selecting the source and target file, There are a number of other options here. There's an option for structural alignment that only becomes available if you actually select a file that has IDs imported from it. And then below that, the option to turn term-based terms as anchors on or off, to tell the aligner whether or not to take bold, italic, and underline into consideration to improve the matching, and whether or not to look at inline tags. Another part that improves in alignments is the interface to add multiple alignments. So this is basically, I am going to actually just show you how this works. An aligner on top of the aligner, and this aligner on top of the aligner you can use to pair files, multiple files, so you don't need to import them individually. I'm going to pick a couple of files here. And then some more files for the target side. And what you can see that as soon as I added them, MemoQ actually paired up these files by looking at their names. And it did quite a good job at pairing them up. And if I continue from here, then all of these will be imported into my corpus. Finally, I added a binary document here as well, which in this case is an image. If I double click it, it opens up in the default viewer, which is on my computer, your front view. Okay, so this looks all very nice and well. How do you actually get something out of this when you work? Let's go into translations. I have a document here which so far should be empty. And if you take a look at the right, you can see that you get various fuzzy and exact matches in the translation results. There's also a symbol next to the row number. The first symbol tells me that this is a segment that comes from a monolingual document, and the one below is a segment that comes from an alignment document. You can insert this result just like you can insert a TM result, or, and here's the neat part, here's how alignment can be shifted into the translation phase. What you have here is a perfect match with the wrong target. So let's just fix the alignment in this spot. I can just right-click here, pick Choose Document. I'm waiting for the menu to show up in the webcast. And then MemoQ takes me to the actual alignment document in question. I can fix up the incorrect link. The point is, I only need to fix up those things in the alignment document that I'm actually going to come across. And if I go back to my document, in a short time, MemoQ will update the index of the corpus in the background, and I will receive a perfect result in the translations list. Okay, I was just looking at Ishvan because I thought there's something to add here.
Maybe I do. You could have seen maybe that this was indicated as a 90% match. And the reason for that is that we put in a penalty for the alignment document. We are adding two new resources. One of them is the LiveDocs Corpora, and the other is the LiveDocs settings, similar to translation memories, where you used to have translation memories and TM settings. So what you can define here is what's a match, what qualifies as a match, and you can also define penalties for certain corpora. You can define penalties for certain users, and you can also define penalties for alignment, for bilingual documents, and what sort of links we are talking about. Right now what you see here is that we have defined a 5% penalty for an auto-link. Why was that 90% then? What you can also see here is that if it's an alignment document which is unfinished, you may have seen the little tick, finished alignment. If it's unfinished, then we are penalizing it by 10%. As you can see, these penalties also are very valid when you are working with bilingual documents that you have translated before, be they MBD files, XLIF files, Trados TTX files, and so on and so forth. Because what you can also say is that if the document is an old document, who last changed between, you can see that, then you want to use a penalty. Also, we have introduced a new way of tagging these documents to make sure that the reference documents actually give you results that are relevant.
I will say a few words about tagging or keywords. So if I go back to the LiveDocs interface, you can see that in the list of the documents here at the bottom, there's a column that says keywords, where you can just type in keywords. This is also something you can set when you add a new document to the corpus. So I will just type a few words here, saying IBM server PDF. Happens to be an OCR document. Here I'm just typing server. So I have a set of keywords here. And here I'm just typing coyote. That's a good keyword for a coyote. And now imagine that you really don't have 3 documents here, but dozens or hundreds or maybe thousands of documents that you somehow need to manage. I can just as it happens in Excel, I can just open this drop-down list and pick which keywords I want to show. So if I untick everything except coyote, then I will only see the document with coyote. And the interesting part is what István was just showing you a moment ago. In the settings, you can also apply penalties to specific keywords. So this is how you can categorize further your content in the LiveDocs corpus.
The other question in the meantime that I think is best answered at this moment, which was, this means that you don't manage TMs anymore, but group of files in the server with real-time lookup. Is that correct? It's an option. This is very important to emphasize that if you have worked with translation memories and you've got your translation memories in great order, they are tidy, they are good quality, go on and continue using it. But you can now also choose to work with LiveDocs instead of translation memories. The two are equivalent, and you can also use both in the same project. You know, just like before when we were mentioning that you can use several translation memories in the same project, blah, 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 you can also use several LiveDocs. So it works exactly the same way as translation memories. And there was also a question that if you want to export all your translations, then you can export your corpora into a TMX file format, actually not into TMX, but into XLib. Because we found that here it's really crucial that you have the context. And with the TMX, you would have a big problem exporting the alignment documents.
All right. So this more or less covers LiveDocs in the first round. Let's take a look at. Okay.
How you add the documents into.
Okay, that's a very good idea. István just reminded me of one of the most important parts. So let me just go back to my document real quick. Oh, by the way, you can see that the index has now been updated while I was speaking, and this now comes from the correct alignment links. Actually, the documents that I have in this particular corpus do not yield a whole lot of matches. I think István is looking for something with a match. I'm not exactly sure what István is doing.
There was another question, and that's related to statistics. It was Bert's question. So can you quantify how much is going to come from the corpora? Of course you can. So you don't need to have a translation memory in order to quantify your productivity. In the statistics now, you include in the analysis, you can include all project PMs and corpora as well. So just have a look around and let's see how much the resource my corpus is going to yield. You can see that there are quite a few fuzzy matches coming from this corpus, and in this project we don't have any translation memory. So I hope that this answers the question. Bert.
So whenever you do pre-translation or you do analysis/statistics, a corpus acts just as a TM would act. TMs and corpora all give their input into these two operations.
The reason why you can do it is that obviously the matching happens on the source side. And even with alignment, which did not happen, the source is there. So you can do the matching, and then you can fix the rest, which is the link between the source and the target. And now what Gabor is going to show us is how you can add documents into the corpus. Actually, let me just give you a brief explanation on how the idea of the corpus came to our mind. When we started localizing MemoQ, and you have to know that we don't have dedicated staff for localization, and we still do quite a few languages, what we found is that it was always a big hassle to make sure that we have the right translation memory. So instead of keeping a single translation memory, we decided to manage our translations in a way that we kept the bilingual documents that we received back from our translators. Then, before starting the localization of a new version or a new build, we imported the new document. We imported the bilingual document and we cleaned it up into translation memory. We learned the importance of cleanup, but we also learned that this is really a LAR pour LAR technology concept, that you only need to do the cleanup because you work with translation memories, which is a technological restriction. And therefore, we had the idea that instead of really doing this cleanup all the time, we could maybe just take the matches straight from the bilingual document and then avoid creating extra work by doing translation memories. So this is what Gabor is going to show you now.
So what I'm just going to do is copy source text target for all rows. I'm not even going to confirm these rows. So I just have a document that I now pretend to have translated with the source and the target for every single row. And instead of cleaning this up into my project's translation memory, what I do is just click Add to Corpus, select the corpus that I want to add this document to. I can enter some keywords. I'm going to add latest. And I'm just moving it to the corpus. If I take a look at the properties of my corpus, hopefully I can be fast enough. Hopefully GoToMeeting can be fast enough. No, it was not. What you can see is that MemoQ added the new rows to the index that is implicitly created behind the corpus. And now this corpus is ready to give me fuzzy matches from this newly added document. Let's double check that. I go back into my document, and for every single row, I've got an exact match that the icon tells me comes from a bilingual document in the corpus. If I need some extra context, and this is one of the advantages that within Corpora have over TMs, they are not just a homogeneous, unordered collection of source and target segments. They are documents. So if I want to take a look at where this build on really came from, I can just go to Show Document, and this will take me exactly to the document and eventually to the row that was there to give me the hit. All right. We are actually, even without my mistaking the timer of the webinar for what it's not, we are running a little bit late. So I'm not going to show you in practice reverse TMs. Let me just show you the properties of a TM. So this is an English to Hungarian translation memory here. And if I bring up the TM's properties, then in the gray group, which means options that you can only set when you create a TM, you can see that there's a new one that says allow reverse lookup. This is something you need to set when you create a new TM. And this allows you to add this English to Hungarian TM as a reference TM to a Hungarian to English project and receive matches and do concordance just as if it were actually a Hungarian to English TM. You cannot actually add new entries that way, so it can serve as a reference TM. All right, so I do want to move on and show you a little bit about online projects with desktop documents. In order to do that, I'm going to turn my computer into a server now. There's a little server application right here that I'm starting. And I'm going back to the MemoQ client now. Again, I came prepared with a project for this. So I'm just going to connect to localhost as if it were a remote server that I was about to manage. I'm sorry, I need to mess with my logins because I'm going to need my admin login for this. Just type in the login. So there you see the list of online projects in localhost. There's one here. If I double-click it to open it for management, then instead of opening up on a tab within MemoQ, the first thing you notice is that it opens up in a pop-up window, in a modal dialog. This is basically a return to how online projects used to work before 4.0. In 4.0, we wanted to eliminate the border between local and remote, and that worked very well. But for projects, managing remote projects on the main tab within MemoQ did not seem to be very intuitive. So what you see here is a document in this project that is assigned in the translator role to a guy called CR, and in the reviewer role to a guy called Rev. You also see that this document actually has a specific workflow status. The second icon from the left shows that this document is now in the translation work phase, and translation has actually begun. So the guy CR has already done something. And the current workflow status is also highlighted by the blue color behind the name of CR. So this is the management perspective. I'm going to leave here now and go to a local copy of this project in the name of CR. I already checked it out, so we don't have to spend time with that. I need to change my login to TR for this project. What you see now is that MemoQ synchronizes the documents with the server. I can go into the document. It behaves just like a regular translation document. By the way, I have been forgetting to turn on the preview. Of course, there's no need to worry. The preview is still there. And I can do a little bit of work in this document now. I will just pretend to translate a few segments in this document, copy source. I'm confirming these segments. But all of this only happens so far on my computer. Actually, let's completely finish translating this document. In order to make these changes written through to the server, I can click the refresh document button here, or back under project home, synchronize document. I can do this individually or for multiple documents at the same time. So I'm doing that now. MemoQ is now uploading my changes to the server, and it's downloading the changes anybody else may have been making to these documents in the meantime. Let me also deliver this document. So delivering the document means it moves on in the workflow, and it leaves the translation work phase, and it enters the review 1 work phase. This is also reflected in the list of documents in my project by this green color. With this particular document, I, as a translator, am done. I have a virtual machine here, also with a MemoQ on it. So I'm switching to the virtual machine now, and I'm going to take a look at the perspective of the reviewer. This project is also checked out in the name of the reviewer user. Changes are being downloaded because the last time the reviewer saw this project, the document was still actually empty. And you may wonder at this point, what happens if two people end up changing the same row, the same segments in a document? I will show you what happens there. So let's just take a look inside here. What you can actually see here is these blue arrows. These tell me that since the last time I saw this document, new changes have been downloaded from the server. So let me just make some edits here. This really should be something else, not highlights. I'm just typing something here and moving on to the next segment. As soon as I edited, the change mark is gone. Actually, I made a typo here. All right. And now let me also upload these changes to the server. If, in the meantime, the translator goes into the document and makes some change in the same segment, this change should not take precedence over the reviewer's change because it's now the reviewer's turn in the document. So if I synchronize back in the translator's copy, then what I will get is a conflict mark. You can see this little red flag here. And what I wrote in there, the server rejected that, and now there's something different. Every once in a while, if there are multiple people working on the same document, these kinds of changes will happen. So either your change overrides someone else's because you have precedence, or you just get changes downloaded from someone else, or your changes are rejected. You can, of course, review these changes. We have a separate interface for this, which is in the operations menu and says review changes and conflicts, which will give you a listing very similar to the resolve errors and warnings list, where you can go through the individual segments that have change marks and just tick them away or make an informed choice about them. All right. And I still want to show you one more thing about the desktop document. Actually, this is not specific to desktop documents. This is a change that we implemented in all of our online projects that has to do with workflow. Now, me being the reviewer, it's possible that I'm not satisfied with what the translator did, so I want to return the document to the previous guy to work some more on that. Or it can also be the case that we are using a workflow where it is not the reviewer that has the final say. The reviewer does a couple of edits, those changes are stored in the server, and then the document goes back to the translator who will have the final say. In order to do that, I can use the deliver return command. There I have two options. I can choose the document is fine, I'm delivering it, and that will push the document forward in the workflow change, or I can say I'm returning the document to the previous actor, which in this case is the translator. So that's what I'm going to do. And that will push the document back onto the translator. And this is also where the change marks that I was showing you come in. They allow you to indicate to the translator which are the segments that the reviewer has changed and the translator still needs to look at to verify those changes. Previously, this would not have been possible in a very simple way unless you wanted to lose the confirmed status of segments, which in turn made it difficult to track project progress. Okay, I'm actually going to leave this local copy now. You can imagine what this would look like in the local copy. But let me go back for just a moment into the management interface of this project. So I'm going to be PM again, setting my password, and I'm going into this project. Here you can see that the workflow status is once again translation, but the really interesting part here is in the overview panel where we have a new kind of report. Under reports, I'm sorry, this is actually under history, which is the document history. And this gives you a table that tells you what happens to each document in the project, who did that, when the event happened, and what it was. This project actually, if you take a closer look, already has a history. I was playing around with it yesterday. But today, you can see that PR delivered the document at 5:51, and at 5:55, the user that is called REV returned rejected the document, so it went back to PR with the new workflow status being translation in progress. So this gives you an oversight over the history of the project in retrospect. Okay, I think it is now time for questions. I'm pretty sure that there are a number of things that I forgot to mention, but I'm also pretty sure that we will remember those as the questions start coming in.
Yeah, so it's time for the questions. Please feel free to ask the questions in the questions panel. And also, we would be quite interested in what your thoughts are regarding MemoQ 4.5. So please tell us whether you find that it's cutting-edge technology, whether it levels MemoQ up to the competition, or if there are still things to improve on the software. And in the meantime, I would also like to ask you to spread the word about this new release. If you're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, social media, please, or if you are blogging, please don't hesitate to share an entry. So far we are at 53%. Please go on and cast some more votes. And 64, just give it a little go. Okay, getting better. So then it is time that we share this with you. And we get back to the questions. So the first two questions were answered. Would MemoQ be able to translate image pages? No, that is not the goal of MemoQ 4.5. It won't be able to translate image pages. You will be able to share these as binary resources. You can now see the results of the poll. So 56%, if I see it right, thinks that it's cutting-edge technology, 32% thinks that it levels MemoQ up with the competition, and 12% thinks that there are still things to improve. We are most interested in what the 12% are considering. So if you've got some comments, please feel free to share those with us, either here or in an email. Okay, next question. Which bilingual file formats are supported? MBD, bilingual doc, bilingual two-column RTF table, XLIF, TTX, that's all. So basically all the bilingual formats that MemoQ supports. Well, fantastic, was just a comment. We are very happy about it. And then a question, which would be the purpose of reference documents or source only in the corpora in relation to translation? It is just giving you an indication that there has been something translated. It's basically just an option. So as I can think about it is, for example, that you would rather use the monolingual documents in the target language for concordancy, but even in the source language, it can give you a good comparison with an earlier version or something like that. The preview documents support a number of file formats. This hasn't changed. So it's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, XML, HTML. And then the next question, I will pass the floor to Gabor. When do you set the workflow?
The workflow is basically implicit in the way documents move along their translation, review 1, review 2 path in MemoQ. It's not customizable workflow. So this is not the kind of workflow where you can define various conditions and then the document can travel along the graph this way if some condition is met, or travel that way, and in the meantime MemoQ does automatic things. It's a workflow that is implicitly defined by the acts of the individual project participants, but it's made explicit now. And if you go into the project, yeah, that's just a small thing. You as a project manager have the option to manually change the workflow status of a particular document. So you're not dependent on the individual participants, but you can also nudge it ahead or back if you need to intervene. Is it integrated with the finances of the project? MemoQ server does not have functionality for that sort of project management or finances management or invoice management. But indeed, this is the point to say that MemoQ is integrated with project management systems such as FluNet, XCRF, or L2C Works. So in conjunction with such systems, MemoQ server can be a very powerful tool in the hands of an LSP. Once you check out an online project and start working locally, you are working offline automatically. So it means you have to remember about the synchronization. Basically, there are two types of online projects. So I was focusing on desktop documents here, but we still have the old one, which we call active documents. That means every single time you confirm a segment, it is written through to the server immediately. The price of that is no splitting or joining segments and the need for a live connection. With desktop documents, you can indeed start working offline, and you would need to synchronize, but every time you open a project, MemoQ synchronizes the documents, and every time you close the project, it prompts you whether you want to synchronize the documents in the project or not. So at quite a number of places, MemoQ will do that for you automatically. Maybe just one more word I would like to say here is that MemoQ gives a lot of options to project managers, sometimes maybe even too many options. And you can use an online project with desktop documents where the translation memories and the term bases will be completely online. Only the documents are desktop documents. This is actually a very useful way to just even use in a local area network within your office. But this way you can manage the same project as a project manager and go into the documents from any PC. You are not tied to a particular PC as you are more or less with the handoff and delivery method of project management in MemoQ. But you can also choose to also use local copies of translation memories and term bases and go fully the synchronization route.
Then the next question was whether you can put PDFs in the corpus. Yes, you can, provided that this PDF can be extracted, so it's a textual PDF rather than an image PDF. Next question, how do we apply the TM setting for all users on all projects that we check out? This is done by setting up the default TM settings. This is something that you do the same way as you did in 4.2. So basically under Tools, Options, Default Resources, when you set up the project, your defaults will be inherited. Is the format XLSX now supported? It will be supported in MemoQ 4.5, though not in the first release. Can we say a little something about QTerm and when it will be available? The official release date that we aim for is sometime in November, probably take home in Germany. It is a web-based interface that connects very closely to MemoQ term bases. And basically, it enables you to look up terms, to add new terms, to work with customizable terminology structures. So in a nutshell, it's basically the equivalent of the Trados multi-term server. And when will online review of documents be available? By online, you mean browser-based, I suppose. As I said, we started with the terminology interface. Review is going to come later. I can't give a date for this so far. Is there a way to sort only numbers in a document or have to simply keep them not translated? The way we do it normally is sorting alphabetically, because then the numbers only segments will come first. Oh, sorry. In the meantime, what you see on the screen is how, for example, a term from the term base. I'm sorry about the definition there. We just realized that it's something that we use for. Well, you can see that we are an easygoing company. Okay, Turkish is a friend of ours. So this is what it will look like with MemoQ integrated.
This is, as a matter of fact, a regular MemoQ term-based entry. So we have often received the criticism by terminology-minded people that MemoQ's term base is not concept-oriented, whereas it has been concept-oriented for a long time, only with a fixed entry structure. This view, so this is what a term-based hit will look like in 4.5. This is the regular MemoQ term-based hit. This gives you also an impression of how QTerm hits will appear here with the definition that the fields you can use are freely customizable in QTerm, and of course, those term bases that are part of QTerm are also accessible through a web interface, and you do not need MemoQ for that. Next question. Do you improve the using of max lengths of XML files so that we don't have to insert it to the comments? We just added a feature to our XList filter, which is actually already there in the latest 4.2 build. We just haven't been very, very loud about that, probably because we were focusing on the larger features of 4.5. So now if you import an XList document into MemoQ, you have options to import the max maximum length, I think, or max width. I'm not exactly sure. There is an XLIF element for this, a standard one. So MemoQ imports the content from that if it's in characters. It also gives you a red highlight in the status bar where you can see the number of characters source against target. And you also have a QA check for that. So if the source is XLIF, which does have standard markup for that, then we can handle maximum length limits. What would be the use of making image file as a resource file?
Well, imagine that you've got a technical translation to do, and you have some image of an engine, for example, there with a number of words in there. Basically, you could previously store these images in the term base as well, but right now you can share it as a resource as well. Or, for example, you can include, let's say you are translating some advertisement, and you can include the original view of the advertisement, which is also something quite useful. Now, of course, you could do that in the preview, but that's not perfect. Anyway, there is use to that. You mentioned that there were improvements in the server locking function. Will there be an option to automatically lock all confirmed segments within a project? So far, I don't think so. There will be no automatic locking here. Then there was a question. Have you tested the 64-bit Windows 7? Because MemoQ 4.2 did not work properly with 64-bit.
We are interested to hear specifically what would not be working on the 64-bit Windows with 4.2. As a matter of fact, the computer that you're looking at is a 64-bit Windows. So as far as we are aware, we don't know of any major problems or even minor ones on 64-bit Windows. If there are some, then please drop us a mail to support and we will sort that out. Is the upgrade to MemoQ 4.5 as easy as the upgrade to 4.2? It should be quite easy and seamless. It may be a bit more lengthy because the format of translation memories, the binary format, has changed. So MemoQ will need to migrate all existing resources. That will take a bit of time, not an immense lot of time, but after that, the migration should be quite simple.
You are not losing any data here, so it's not like the 3.6 to 4.01 was. That was a big leap, and probably there will be no similar leap in the history of Killgrave, or future history, or what you call it. Then the next question is it possible to work into several languages in the same project? It is possible, but only in a server edition or a project manager edition. It has been possible since MemoQ 4.0. In the project manager edition, you can add new target languages. In the Translator Pro edition, projects are always bilingual. Okay, it seems that we have run out of questions so far. If you have any questions, well, they are very welcome. If you don't, then we would like to thank you very much for your attention. And yeah, Ishmael, we actually see this, so but it's a comment rather than a question. Thank you again, and now stay tuned for the release in about 3 weeks' time, 18th. And if you've got any issues, questions, whatever, don't hesitate to contact us. We are very happy to be at your disposal.
Thank you for attending the webinar, and have a nice day or evening, depending on your time zone, and hope to see you again soon at another webinar.
Don't forget to tweet.
Absolutely. Bye, and thanks again.